A monthly income of $30,000. To most people reading or watching this, that is the stable, comfortable life you have spent a full decade chasing. You pin your daily grind to it. You plan your future around it. You see people hitting this number online and you think that if you just get there, you have made it. That all the stress will end and you can finally breathe easy. But if you look at this number through the cold, hard logic of wealth acceleration, it is nothing more than a starting point mirage. It does not get you to your goal. It stops you from reaching it. It tricks you into feeling successful. It keeps you complacent. You stop pushing for more, stop asking what comes next, and you get stuck in a closed loop that never delivers what you actually want. True, lasting financial freedom. You never have to work another day for money you do not already have. That is the prize. $30,000 a month is not the finish line. It is the starting gate, and most people never get past it because they think it is the end. Let's lay out the brutal math most financial gurus will never show you. It sounds boring, but it is also the math that keeps 99% of people poor forever. If you earn $30,000 a month and save half of it, that's $15,000 put away every month. For 90% of people reading this, that level of saving is already a massive struggle. After you pay rent, groceries, insurance, and childcare, cutting your expenses down to $15,000 a month feels almost impossible. It requires skipping dinners out, turning down trips with friends, saying no to almost every small pleasure that makes work bearable. At that extreme, almost unattainable rate, you save $180,000 a year. To reach $30 million through pure savings alone, it would take you 166 full years. You would be dead twice over before you even hit the halfway mark. That is not a path to wealth. That is a life sentence to the labor income trap. Your time is finite. You can only work 40 to 60 hours a week. Your energy is a depreciating asset. It only gets weaker as you get older. And your salary always has a hard ceiling, set by your boss, your company, and the market rate for your job. You do not control the cap on your own income. That control belongs to someone else. To jump from $30,000 a month to $30 million in net worth, you have to stop thinking about working for money. You have to start thinking about building levers. What is a lever? Most people hear the word and immediately think of borrowing a huge sum from a bank to flip a house. That can be one form of lever, but it is far from the only one. A lever is anything that allows you to control a large outcome with a small initial input. It scales your work far beyond the 40 to 60 hours a week you can physically show up. One of the most accessible levers right now is specialized knowledge that few other people have. You build it once, and you can sell it over and over to hundreds of different clients without starting from scratch every time. Another is media that you create once. A video, a podcast, an article, an ebook. It gets viewed by thousands or even millions of people years after you've finished making it. It works for you while you sleep, while you eat, while you spend time with your family. Another is code that you build once, that serves thousands of paying customers without requiring extra hours of work from you every month. The most powerful lever of all is capital. Once you have enough of it working for you, it generates returns 24 hours a day. No sleep required, no limit on how much it can grow. Levers are the only way out of the labor trap. They are the difference between working for money and having your money and your systems work for you. But before you can even start building these levers, you have to survive the most dangerous part of the entire journey. I call this starting point Phase 1, the destruction phase. It is the deliberate destruction of your old habits, your old ego, and your old ideas about what money means. It sounds harsh, but it is non-negotiable. I learned this the hard way, just like most people who eventually make it. I remember when I first hit that $30,000 monthly income mark myself. I felt like I had finally made it. I'd worked a full decade to get here. I deserved to reward myself, right? I thought I had cracked the system. I thought I was smarter than the average investor. I started chasing the excitement of high returns to show off how well I was doing. I bought status symbols that impressed people I barely knew. I upgraded all my possessions to match the income level I had reached. Then I dumped nearly my entire 3 years of saved surplus into a single bad crypto investment call. I was so sure it would hit. I was so sure my instincts were right. I walked away with barely $12,000 left. That single mistake nearly wiped out everything I had worked for. That was the wake-up call I needed. Most people in the 30,000 monthly income bracket stay there forever, and this is why. They fall into one of two traps that lock them in permanently. The first is lifestyle inflation. Every raise they get just goes to a bigger house, a nicer car, more expensive dinners out. Their expenses rise exactly as fast as their income. They never build any surplus to invest in levers. The second is the illusion of expertise. They make a little money, think they know it all, and bet everything on one bad idea. They burn through all their fuel before the rocket even leaves the atmosphere. Once you get through the destruction phase, you enter phase 2, the desert. This is where 90% of people quit forever. It is long. It is boring. It feels like absolutely nothing is happening. Let me paint this for you. You cut all unnecessary expenses, you lock your monthly spending low, you save up every dollar of surplus. Then you start investing that extra cash and building your side systems after your full-time job ends. You wake up an hour earlier every single day. You skip the after-work happy hours with your coworkers. You cancel the weekend trips you used to take with friends. You have almost no social life left because every spare minute goes to building your lever. You work harder than you ever have in your life. After 2 full years of this grind, you finally pull up your account statement. It has grown, a little, but it is not life-changing. It is not the millions you dreamed of when you started. It is just a few extra tens of thousands of dollars. That is the desert. It is the long, invisible stretch where the math works behind the scenes, but you can't feel any progress. No one congratulates you. No one even notices what you are doing. It just feels like you are wasting all your free time for nothing. I spent 3 full years in this desert myself. I built my own software business while I showed up to my 9-to-5 job every single day. I reinvested every single cent of profit back into the business. I did not take a single dollar out for 3 years. Once you have that solid, verifiable evidence that your system works consistently, you enter phase 3, the explosion. This is the point where the growth curve turns almost vertical. Nothing changes about your strategy. Everything changes about the results. You keep doing the exact same small, consistent actions you did in the desert, but the size of your base has grown enough that the same returns produce outcomes you could not have imagined when you started. In my case, this happened in the 4th year of my journey. The exact same system that had been making me an extra $5,000 a month for 3 straight years suddenly scaled. Because I had 3 years of solid data proving the model worked, I was able to attract outside capital to expand the business. Because I had already built the discipline of reinvesting every dollar and keeping my personal expenses locked low, I knew how to scale without burning through all my cash on unnecessary overhead. My personal net worth did not grow slowly, line by line, the way it had for the first 3 years. It jumped. It went from 1 million to 5 million to 15 million in less time than it took me to save my first $100,000. This sudden explosion is not some lucky break. It is the natural result of a concept called the critical mass of capital. Once your assets reach a certain size, the returns on those assets begin to completely dwarf anything you could ever earn from your labor. A 10% return on $30,000 is just $3,000. That is enough for one nice dinner out with friends. But a 10% return on $10 million is $1 million a year. That is more than 33 months of your original $30,000 monthly income, from just 1 year of returns alone. Nothing changed about the underlying math. Only the size of the base changed. The reason most people never see this explosion is that they quit the desert before the base gets big enough for the math to take over. So, how do you actually execute this entire roadmap step by step, starting right where you are today? I have 3 non-negotiable rules that I still follow to this day, even after hitting the net worth goal I set a decade ago. Break any one of these rules and you will almost certainly derail your journey before the math can work for you. First, you always define your risk before you ever look at the reward. Every move I made once I got serious about this process had a defined exit strategy written down on paper before I even put $1 at risk. I knew exactly how much I was willing to lose on any single idea, and I walked away the second I hit that limit. No second guessing, no sunk cost fallacy dragging me in deeper. Winners treat their downside as sacred. They do not gamble with their entire base of capital just for a shot at a big reward. Second, you never risk more than a small fraction of your total net worth on a single unproven idea. Most new ideas fail. That is just a fact of this game. If you bet 50% of your net worth on one unproven idea and it fails, you are out of the game. You need to stay in the game to win the game. If you blow up your base, compounding stops cold. There is no do-over for a lost foundation. Third, and most importantly, you must decouple your identity from your monthly income. A bad month where your system underperforms is not a personal failure. A failed project that loses you 10% of your capital is not a sign you should quit. It is just data. It tells you what does not work, so you can adjust your strategy and try again. $30 million is not a magic lucky number reserved for a tiny group of people born with the right connections. It is the natural, inevitable result of a proven system that is followed all the way to its logical conclusion. The people at the top of the wealth mountain are not there because they won the genetic lottery or caught a single once-in-a-lifetime break. They are there because they processed more failures than you have even attempted. They did not have better natural instincts than you. They just built better systems. And then they forced their human instincts to submit to those systems every single day, for years on end. Most people will watch this video, nod along with every word I have said, and do nothing. They will go back to their $30,000 a month, complain about the economy and how the system is rigged against them, and spend every dollar of surplus they have on cars, clothes, and gadgets that lose value the second you buy them. They will keep chasing quick wins, keep falling for lifestyle inflation, and keep gambling everything on one unproven idea. Then they will say this system does not work. But for the few of you who understand that wealth is a game of patience and mathematics, not luck, the path is clear right in front of you. The question is not whether the math works. The math is airtight. It has worked for millions of people before you, and it will work for millions after you. It does not care about your background. It does not care what your starting point is. It only cares that you stick to the system long enough for it to work. The only question that remains right now, for you, is whether you have the stomach to stick to the system long enough to let it work for you. That is the only barrier standing between where you are now and the $30 million net worth you want. It is not talent. It is not connections. It is not luck. It is just the decision to stop chasing the comfortable mirage of a $30,000 a month stable life and start building something that will outwork you, outlast you, and grow without you showing up every single day. For too long, you have let your work take all the risk, put all the eggs in someone else's basket, traded every hour of your finite life for a paycheck that will never grow fast enough to set you free. The old rule says you work for money. The new rule that gets you to 30 million says you build a system that makes your money work for you. That is the only shift that matters. That is the only shift that changes everything. Starting today, you do not have to jump off a cliff and quit your job tomorrow. You do not have to bet your entire savings on one unproven idea. All you have to do right now is make the decision. Commit to the process. Commit to cutting the waste, building your surplus, testing your edge, and staying in the game long enough for the math to take over. If you are ready to stop dreaming, stop nodding along, and start executing right now, I want you to do one simple thing. Type the word execute in the comments below this video. That word is your contract with yourself. It is the first step on the journey that will take you from $30,000 a month to $30 million in net worth. I have laid out the entire map. All you have to do is take the first step. I will see you at the finish line.